Welcome to Nature's Depth, the channel where we go beyond the beautiful views and into the layers of history, science, and ecology that make every natural spot unique. If you're curious about how nature and humans have shaped each other, you're in the right place. Together, we'll explore not only the landscapes but also the stories etched into them by time, water, earth, and human hands. Let's get started. If you're anything like me, you love the idea of going out into nature. There's something inherently appealing about the outdoors. The vastness of the landscapes, the fresh air, the sounds of birds or a nearby stream. But once you're actually there, you may find yourself wondering, now what? After you take a few pictures, maybe have a snack, there's often a moment where you look around and think, what do I do now? I know I've felt that way. And for a while, I even felt guilty for it, like I was missing out on some kind of profound, spiritual experience. Shouldn't I be feeling a connection to the earth, to Gaia, to the life force that surrounds me? I'd see people on social media talking about the intense peace they feel when they're out in the wild, and it made me wonder, am I doing something wrong? The truth is, while some people might feel that connection immediately, for many of us, it's not so automatic. More often than not, I actually feel slightly out of place in nature, a little uncomfortable even. Sometimes I feel that societal pressure to have a moment in nature can actually get in the way of appreciating what's really out there. So if you've ever felt like you're not quite sure what you're supposed to be experiencing, know that you're not alone. Nature doesn't have to be spiritual or transformative in a certain way for it to be meaningful. Nature experiences are not one size fits all. Our access to nature, comfort level, and what we seek can differ vastly. I was lucky to drive all the way out here to this canyon, about 45 miles from my home, thanks to having a vehicle and being able to afford the trip. Not everyone has that luxury, nor do they have access to rural areas, the physical ability to walk on uneven ground, or even the comfort to be outside alone. That's why I won't prescribe a single, right way, to experience nature. What I can do, though, is share a bit of how I, as an ecologist, find meaning and excitement outdoors, and maybe give you some ideas you can apply in your own explorations, whether they're on mountain peaks, city parks, or anywhere in between. Today, I'm here at this breathtaking canyon in the Palouse Scablands of eastern Washington. This place is like a natural amphitheater, with steep cliffs towering on either side and a vibrant green meadow stretching below. If you're someone who enjoys quiet reflection, simply sitting at the canyon's edge and taking in the view could be a form of meditation. But as someone who gets bored rather quickly, I've found that just sitting doesn't cut it for me. This canyon will look the same in half an hour as it does now. The only difference will likely be the increased discomfort of my seat on this hard ground. So, I approach nature differently. My background as an ecologist means I tend to look at nature not just as a collection of beautiful sights but as an interconnected system full of relationships, history, and subtle clues about the past and present. Let's dive into this place together, using this canyon as an example of how we can look at nature with fresh eyes and curiosity. At its core, ecology is the study of relationships, how plants, animals, soil, water, air, and even humans interact with and influence one another. Usually, the emphasis is on these interactions, but we can't understand the whole system without understanding its individual parts. Let's break down this canyon piece by piece, starting with its origins. How did this canyon even get here? The answer lies in a series of cataclysmic events called the Missoula floods. Around 13,000 to 15,000 years ago, a massive ice dam held back glacial Lake Missoula in what is now Montana. Periodically, this dam would break, releasing a torrent of water so vast that it carved deep scars into the landscape, creating canyons like this in a matter of days. So when I look at this canyon, I don't just see serene cliffs and lush meadows. I see the aftermath of one of the most powerful geological forces that ever shaped this region. In a way, it's like looking at the fingerprints of a giant, ancient flood that has left its mark on the land. Next, I notice the color palette here. Sure, we have the obvious browns and grays of the rock, but there's also green, a sign of life. There are countless plant species here, even if you don't know them by name, and just looking at how the vegetation changes from the canyon edge to the floor below tells us something important. Here at the top, it's drier and less lush, while down below, where the water pools and the soil is richer, the vegetation is much more abundant. These differences in plant life tell me that I can likely expect different animal species in each zone, too. The top might host small rodents and hardy birds, while the meadow below could be a haven for insects, ground-nesting birds, and other creatures that thrive in a more fertile habitat. One of the biggest misconceptions about nature is that it's untouched, pristine, and separate from human influence. But the truth is, most of the landscapes we encounter, even in remote areas, have been shaped by humans in one way or another. Take this canyon, for instance. Although it might look wild, much of it has been influenced by agriculture. The bottom of this canyon is a cow pasture, and the surrounding land is largely devoted to cattle ranching and farming. This canyon does not resemble what it looked like 200 years ago, and human activity is the reason why. When we talk about human influence on the land, it's important to consider whose land we're actually on. I'm standing here on the ancestral lands of the Palis people, a Native American tribe who lived here long before European settlers arrived. With the arrival of settlers in the mid-1800s, manifest destiny led to the forced removal of indigenous people from their homelands. Thousands were relocated to reservations like the Nez Perce, Colville, and Yakima reservations. When I look at this canyon, I not only think of geological forces but also of the human history, both indigenous and colonial, that has impacted the ecosystem here. One way to experience nature differently is to think beyond the surface. Instead of just admiring the view from the top, I might decide to hike down into the canyon, exploring the plants, animals, and the unique microclimates along the way. I could look up the plants and animals commonly found here and make a checklist of what I hope to spot. Nature becomes more interactive this way. It's no longer a static backdrop but a living, breathing ecosystem with its own story to tell. Curiosity is a powerful tool when exploring the outdoors. You don't need to know everything or even care about knowing everything, but asking questions can turn a simple outing into a learning experience. Wondering why certain plants grow in one place but not another, or why certain animals prefer certain habitats, can deepen your appreciation of nature. And you can do this anywhere, whether you're hiking a remote trail or walking through a city park. Of course, you don't have to take a scientific approach if that's not your thing. If your idea of enjoying nature is simply sitting on a bench, emptying your mind, and soaking up the sunlight, that's perfectly valid. Nature doesn't have rules about how you're supposed to experience it. However, for those who want to go a bit deeper, I've found that asking questions about the land, the ecosystem, and the history gives me a kind of appreciation that goes beyond aesthetic beauty. The next time you're outside, try noticing the small details, the shape of a tree's bark, the way the light filters through the leaves, or the sound of insects in the grass. Each of these elements tells a story of survival, adaptation, and interaction. These moments, when you see nature as a collection of interconnected lives rather than a postcard, can make you feel a part of the bigger system. Thank you for joining me on this exploration. If you enjoyed this video and want more deep dives into the natural world, ecosystems, and how humans have shaped them, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more. Nature is more than just a scenic view. It's a complex, interconnected world, and we've barely scratched the surface. Let's keep exploring, one layer at a time.